What's up, everybody? This is time to wrestle with Suplexus. I am Suplexus, and today I am giving you my review for AEW Full Gear 2025. so, um, this will be a long video. I'm gonna have to look at my phone because there were 9 matches. Well, 9.5, but we will get to that. There are about 9.5 matches. Um, yeah, I'm gonna need to check my phone, so I just want to get that out of the way. So now, because it's gonna be so long, I'll just get into my thoughts overall on the show. So, overall, I thought it was a fine outing for AEW. It wasn't their best show. It wasn't quite all in or double or nothing level for this year, but I thought it was good overall. A couple complaints. We'll talk about the first one right now because it coincides with the first match. So, normally, an AEW show will begin. Excalibur will be like, "It's our night, you know what that means? AEW presents Full Gear." But instead, we start the show and people are wrestling in the ring. There's a match going on between Hechicero, Konosuke Takeshita, and Okada against Mystico Neon, how do they say his name? Neon, I think, Luchador, and Mascara Dorada. So the match was already going on when the show started, and to me, I don't like it because it makes it makes the show seem like it's less important than it actually is. And like when a pay-per-view starts with PLE, whatever it is, I want it to feel like important, like I'm watching something big, everything matters. But when you go into a match, then all of a sudden Okada's music hits, and it was advertised as a 6 person tag online. Everywhere I saw the match card, it was just 6 person tag, no other stipulations advertised. That's what they said on Dynamite or Collision, third hour of Dynamite this week. Um, on all their social media platforms. It was just like 6 person tag, and then all of a sudden someone's like casino rules. So it's like, okay, casino rules. I'm not sure how that works. I guess it's like the casino rules from the national title match coming up. But then they start yapping about how Okada showed up late. So that made my brain kind of explode because it doesn't make sense to me. Um, that happened, and the match, from what I saw, the rest of it, it was fine. It was decent work by all of them, but it's just very confusing, and they advertised it for the pre-show. The pre-show, I believe, was 1 hour long, and they wanted 4 matches on the pre-show. So at that point, if you want this to be on the card, just make it a 10 match card and have it on the main show next time instead of confusing me and starting the show off with a match already going on. Because I didn't watch the Tailgate Brawl. I had zero context of what the story of the match was, what the psychology was, any of that. So it's just a bit confusing. But that out of the way, let's get into the main card. The opening match was Orange Cassidy versus um, Pac. This to me was actually a pretty good opener. One of the better openers AEW's put on this year for wrestling. the thing I like the most about this is that we finally got to see Darby Allin do proper wrestling. Because ever since we came back, it was like he did the cage match at Forbidden Door, he did the coffin match at All Out, he did I Quit match at Wrestle Dream, and then he did War Games, or Blood and Guts, the version of War Games in AEW. So it didn't feel like I actually got to see him wrestle. It just felt like I saw him in these matches where everybody's bleeding, everybody's covered in blood, barbed wire, fire, thumbtacks, shark tanks or fish tanks, um, coffins. I'm forgetting some weapon they use, but you know what it is if you watch AEW. He looked like Kyle Fletcher in this photo. So, um, it was nice to see him in a legit wrestling match, and apart from the I Quit match at Wrestle Dream, this was my favorite Darby Allin match since he's returned. I thought it was a really good way to start off the show. Yeah, and Pac wins, which later on, based on what happens later on, I think it's the right result, and I think the ramifications will be apparent come Dynamite. So, the next match we're going to talk about is a Fatal 4-Way match, or a Four Corners tag match. Man, I'm recording this at 12:43 British Columbia time, Pacific time. Now I gotta remember the stipulation. It's a four corners tag match, so 2 on 2 on 2 on 2, and all of them are in the tournament to crown the first AEW Women's Tag Team Championships, and the winning person gets to pick the stipulation for their semi-final match in the tournament for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Okay, so it was Tony and Domina versus Julia Hart and Sky Blue, Triangle of Madness, Terror. No, what's their tag name? Someone correct me in the comments. um, versus Marina Shafir and Megan Bain versus the Babes of Wrath with Willow Nightingale and Hurley Cameron. One thing with this match, Babes of Wrath and Triangle of Madness, two sides of the Triangle of Madness, they were kind of left out. That's my one thing with it. The whole story of the match really revolved around Tony and Mina versing Megan Bain and Marina Shafir. And to me, makes sense. That's the storyline they went for. That's the way Blood and Guts ended. By the way, the women's Blood and Guts was actually pretty good. I'd recommend you check it out if you haven't. So, they followed up on the ending to that match, and I was fully expecting for Marina and Megan to win so that the odds would be stacked against Mina and Tony in the semis, but to me, shockingly, Mina and Tony actually won, and they get to pick the stipulation. So, generally, when one person gets to pick the stipulation, they end up losing the match. So, I could see Megan Bain and Marina Shafir beating them in the semifinals. Overall, this match was fine. It wasn't anything you need to go to your way to see, but it wasn't bad either. It was fine. Yeah. But the next one was FTR versus Rodito. I don't have to say anything. You know how good this was. FTR to me, they are the best tag team in AEW right now. If someone were to say they are the greatest tag team of all time, I will not argue with them. FTR are just so good at what they do. They don't do the flips. They don't do the suicide dives, except for Cash Wheeler that one time. and uh, and I guess Cash Wheeler did decide to do a 450 splash way back at Full Gear 2020. Aside from that, they aren't the type to do the flips. And then you have Brudito, a team that I had serious doubts about when they first got put together, but I've grown to really like them. I like their chemistry. I think they're really good together. Um, this was excellent to me. This is the best AEW tag team match of the year. I like this more than the Okada Takeshita one, Wrestle Dream. I like this more than Young Bucks versus Swerve and Osprey at All In, All In, and yeah, just excellent. You should watch it. So the following match, I believe it was a casino gauntlet for the national championship. Let's go through. Let's start with the beginning. The beginning I didn't like at all because I was looking forward to Lashley fighting Shelton Benjamin. But before they could even lock up, they're having their face off. Ricochet ended up coming out at number three. And then he had a promo. If you watch Dynamite, I did not like that opening segment, and this gave me flashbacks. And then Ricochet's people in the Demand came out to beat up Lashley and Benjamin. So this one more confusing thing about it, Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, they were fighting to get the number one and two spots on Dynamite, and Lashley beat Ricochet. So Ricochet couldn't get number one or two. But what was the point in that happening if Ricochet was just gonna come out like 30 seconds later before they even locked up? Just stuff like that annoys me. But the match to me, it was the weakest Casino Gauntlet match that I've seen AEW put on. I wouldn't say like, oh, this is a bad match. It was horrible. It was awful. It wasn't, but it was just not generating that same excitement that the other ones have. It left me disappointed. It wasn't bad, but it was disappointing. And Ricochet wins the title. Look, I'm happy for Ricochet. I'm a fan of his work. I think this year is probably the best run he's been on that I've seen him have because I first saw him in NXT. So this is probably the best run he's had since then. But the thing is, you just had this guy, he got squashed on Dynamite. He lost in like 2 or 3 seconds, and now he's the first champion. I wouldn't have done that. I would have at least had a competitive match with him and Lashley, because now the first champ seems pretty weak, and that's not what you want for a first champion for a title. So I don't know if I like that. I don't. And now is the point where I gotta go on my little phone because I don't know the match order. The next one, I got it right up to this point. I'm pretty happy about that. Next one was Kyle O'Reilly versus Jonathan Moxley. in a no holds barred match. I had to think about it because we had no DQ match tonight too, and they are very different types of matches. Wink, wink. So I thought this. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I thought this was a very boring match because for the past, let's see how many shows it's been. Double or Nothing, uh, Anarchy in the Arena, Moxley has a match where he bleeds everywhere. Texas Death at All In, Moxley bleeds everywhere. CL Cage at Forbidden Door, Moxley bleeds everywhere. All Out Coffin match, Moxley bleeds everywhere. Wrestle Dream I Quit match. Mind you, not as much blood because they can't have it in St. Louis, but you saw how violent it was. It was, if there wasn't much blood, it was the most violent match to ever happen without any blood. And then we get blood and guts. Moxley bleeds everywhere. So we got that same thing tonight, except nothing really exciting happened aside from them bleeding everywhere and stabbing each other with a fork. And this, like, I'm gonna check the runtime because this felt like it went on forever. I hope this website had it. It didn't. Um, let's see. Oh yeah. Well, while I'm doing this, I'd like to tell you all that the predictions video for Survivor Series will be up this week, and then, as usual, I will be doing my um my review for Survivor Series immediately following the show. So stay tuned for that. Um, I am just on the website. Okay, I'm getting all the runtimes now. Yeah, it looks like all these matches are above above 10 minutes. So let's see, let's see. Wait. Yeah, this match went 19 minutes and 16 seconds. And not much happened aside from a fork being used. That is why I was bored. They gotta fix this. So yeah, it was the weakest match of the night. I would call it bad, outright bad. But the next match, we have my least favorite one I'd call bad, to my favorite one, Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. Kyle Fletcher's TNT title on the line, but if Mark Briscoe wins, or loses, I mean, he has to join the Don Callis family. And I put up this image on the thumbnail. This is a picture of Randy Orton at Backlash 2004 with thumbtacks in his hardcore match with McFoley or Cactus Jack McFoley. Um, and this is Kyle Fletcher experiencing that same thing. So the reason I put that up and the reason I liked this match, it was a complete love letter. It felt like a complete love letter to that match between Randy Orton and Cactus Jack at Backlash 2004, and I loved every second of this. This was my match of the night. Um, these two went out there and in AEW, you get all these matches with like these disgusting things like people being stabbed with forks, people getting chopsticks shoved underneath their fingernails, um, Darby getting slungshot into a rope and his like face bouncing off of it, so, stuff like that. This was a good old fashioned extreme match where we had ladders being used. We had we had a very similar spot to the Randy Backlash one where he fell on the thumbtacks. We had a similar one where Cactus Jack at Backlash, he jumped off the stage and did an elbow through a table. Mark Briscoe jumped off a ladder and did an elbow through a table. And then we had the same wood plank with the barbed wire get brought out. This was a complete love letter to that Backlash match. And I loved every second of it. Um, this is my match of the night. This is my favorite match of the Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher saga. This was their sixth one, I believe. It told a story that I was emotionally invested in. I wanted to see Mark Briscoe win. I did not want to see him join the Don Callis family. He could finally get his moment of holding an AEW title. It's simple storytelling, but it works, and it especially did in this match right here. Excellent match. And I recommend if you're going to watch one thing on the show, it should be this Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. They also had a very good video package with Mark Briscoe talking about his late and deceased brother Jay Briscoe. Very emotional. It just put a smile on my face. That type of match, you know. And like that's what EO winning at Mania is for me. Although that's my match of the year. That put a big smile on my face apparently. And then you got um Cody and Roman at Mania 40. That puts a big smile on your face, everybody's face for that moment. This was one of those. Just go to your way to watch it. So I'm gonna check what the next match is. Um, 10 points to whoever kept track of how many matches I've talked about. Let, let's see. Okay. We only got three more left. We got Jurassic Express. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. You are probably cringing right now. And Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks and the walking weapon. He is not a crawling weapon. He is not a swimming weapon. He is not a flying weapon. I can't think of any other types of weapons. He is a walking weapon. Josh Alexander. Um, this was good. It like I kind of see these all-star matches every week. I feel like I can't really differentiate one from the other. Of course, it was good when you see who was in it, but I can't really pick apart like what makes this different compared to another one, another show. It was just good. So the big thing coming out though, the Young Bucks win and Josh Alexander, and then the Young Bucks leave with Don Callis and the money. Kenny's getting attacked in the ring, and the Young Bucks they think better of it. They drop the money and they go back in and take out the Don Callis family. If you wanna imagine it, it's like when The Rock saved Hulk Hogan from the NWO attacking him at WrestleMania 18. And Young Bucks reunite with Kenny and Jurassic Express. So, with that being said, all I want here, I don't want Kenny to fight the Don Callis family anymore. He has been fighting these people. When did Don Callis even turn on this guy? Was it like May of 2023? April 2023? Like, come on. We gotta figure out something else for Kenny Omega. Because that's that's like a third. That's over a third of AEW's time of existing as a company that Kenny spent fighting these guys. Let's move him on. Let's do something else. Have him fight Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher could use a win. That's with the Don Callis family. Everybody's in the Don Callis family. That's the problem here. I don't know. We need Kenny to do something else. And then the Young Bucks, we'll see how their face run goes. Generally, I've liked them more as heels. I think they do better at that role. But let's see how it goes this time. Next match we got is for the AEW Women's World Championship as the alien kind of that gimmick with Stokely, kind of whatever she was when she beat Jade for the TBS title. Chris Statlander versus the CEO Mercedes Moné. Um, this was good to me. I wanna make sure I get that point across. I thought this was a good match. It wasn't bad. It was good. But with that being said, I'm gonna check how long this match was one final time. I'm gonna check match lengths. Let's see. Uh, this went 23 minutes. This did not need to go 23 minutes. I think if they shaved 5 minutes off the middle, this would have been great. This would have been up there with their Full Gear match last year and their World's End match last year. But this went too long, and there's too much of Mercedes putting an armbar on her. Armbar here, armbar there, Fujiwara here, Kimura there. Like, it lasted way too long. The last 2 minutes were good, which salvaged it. The beginning, the funny thing to me, generally, the format of a wrestling match, you start slow, and then there's a build as the match goes on and gets faster, more intense. This started fast. The first, like, 2 minutes were like boom, boom, boom. I was like, I'm ready for this. Let's do it. No wrestles, no submissions, none of that. Just boom, 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 action, action, action. But then it really slowed down, and considering it was 23 minutes, it probably slowed down for at least 15 of them, which dragged the match down for me. It was good, but it did disappoint. I'll say this. I think, even though I think Mercedes has beaten too many people, not enough people have benefited from her being in the company. I don't see many people on the roster getting in bigger or better spots because they've wrestled her. She's beaten everybody. She's held this title since May of last year. um, I, I don't see much value in her in terms of her AEW run, but she put over Statlander. I'm hoping that they tell the story where she goes on her downfall because becomes paranoid that she can't win the one title that she legitimately cares about because she lost to Tony at All In. I thought they were gonna go there, but they didn't. She just kept doing the same old thing, like beating people without any substance. So I hope they do that. But this was solid to me. And now let's talk about the main event. Um, Swerve, Swerve, Hangman Adam Page defends against Samoa Joe in a cage match. This was good to me. It wasn't anything out of this world. It wasn't the best AEW. Seriously, wasn't the best AEW pay-per-view closer we've seen. It was fine. Um, the shock came though when Hook came out and he turned heel and rejoined Joe. Then Joe won the title, which caught me off guard a little bit. Not that I'm upset about it, because Hangman did have a pretty disappointing reign, but it did catch me off guard. And then we have Swerve returning after. So quite a lot happened at the end. There was a lot to take in. Swerve looks huge now. He looks big. He put on some mass 100%. So Swerve stood by Hangman to end the show. Um, Overall, I give the show a 7.5 out of 10. Um, the fact that the pre-show bled into the main show knocked it down a peg for me. The fact that the Mox Kyle O'Reilly match bored me so much knocked it down a peg for me. Um, some like something like Ricochet winning after getting buried seemingly on Dynamite confused me. So there's some little things, but overall it was a thumbs up show. 75%, about a B grade. I think that's fair for Full Gear. So thank you for watching. This has been Suplexus. I will see you in the next one. Peace.